What's up, everybody? K4K Crypto. We're big. We're big on the screen. We got higher quality video, hopefully better quality audio. This should be a much better quality going forward now that the settings are improved. Takes a lot more hard drive space, we'll say. But this is going to be about hex wrapped stakes. So this is not going to be like the break it down as simple as possible video. I have links to Firebun explaining it in kind of like in a video format, and then there's also the Medium article that I'm going to share with you guys in the description, and you can just kind of read over it a few times to really fully understand it. I'm going to give like a brief rundown of how it works. You can watch that part a little bit to fully understand it, and then I'm going to go down into what does this actually mean? What's the effect it's going to have on Hex, perhaps? And we're going to go through all that and the benefits of it. And they're pretty large benefits, so you're going to want to know what's going on and coming out in the near future. The contracts are already complete and deployed. They just need a front end. So as soon as that front end's up, people are going to start whipping these wrapped shares out. And if you don't know anything about it, you're going to be apprehensive to trying it out when it may be beneficial for you, and then you miss out on potential gains in the future. So you don't want to miss out. You don't want to miss out on this video. So let's get into it. First things first, we'll talk about how big I am on the screen and how I need to get a little bit smaller. There we go. All right. So where can I click? Can I click anywhere on the screen? There we go. All right. So I had this poll. The reason this video is coming out second after my PulseChain, what is after PulseChain video, is because of you guys. You guys voted and you wanted this to come later. So I am beholden to whatever the poll says. So I gotta be careful about what I put in those polls because I'm doing whatever the top rated one is. Fact, not opinion. All right. So that's why I like making polls, because you guys have input and you want to hear what you want to hear. So just let me know. And one more other cool thing is pro tip. I have this link if you want to follow me on Twitter. You can. It's probably like one of my recent posts. This link here that I posted allows you to find every poll from everyone you're following. And it only searches for those, so you can find all the polls, all the ones you voted on. Ones you haven't seen will show up as well. Like this one I didn't do anything with, but that's more engagement for the Hex community. We're all on each other's polls and everything. That sounds a little weird, but you guys know what I mean. So, all right, let's get a little technical. Here we go. Okay. This is the video. I'll have a link in the description. It's the Staker Sunday show. It's on Gerardo's channel. Cool guy, awesome guy. Boom. I love his content. All right. So let's go with like the simple-ish breakdown first. Brace yourselves. You guys are doing great. So what are wrapped hex stakes? They're basically, it's two new contracts that allow a lot more interoperability with the Hex contract, because as it stands right now, once you interact with the Hex contract, like if you staked for 15 years, here, put on here, you cannot participate like in this new contract, the two new contracts that came out. You cannot do anything with your stakes. You can't encapsulate them after the fact. If you've staked with Hex already with the main contract, you're stuck in that contract. Now, it's not bad. It was already a good product. It's just that with these contracts, we get some extra features that are really, really nice, and we're going to talk about them. So people thinking, oh, can I use my 15-year stake and get something out of it? No, you're stuck in that. So just to cull any super enthusiasm before people get excited about that, it's not possible. This is all going to be going forward after the front end comes up, what's going to be happening. So, all right. Go down here. Now, if you just follow the arrows, you can kind of make sense of it without me even saying anything. It's really well drawn up by Firebun. Really good job. Shout out to him. Amazing job. So imagine one person wants to mint their 10 million well, not mint, but they're going to turn their 10 million hex into shares. So they're going to stake it. Well, you don't just stake with the hex contract. There's now the share minter contract. And so you're putting that 10 million hex into the share minter. So this person bought 10. Well, we won't get into the game theory yet. So 10 million hex goes into the share minter. The minter contract then stakes the hex, returns the shares to the share minter. And the person who staked into the share minter contract, they get to set a premium, which is just basically, it's another word for kind of like what percent of their stake do they actually want to be allowed to be bought out? Because like people are like, well, why would you allow someone to get some of your cheap T shares? And we'll get into that. But this basically makes it worth doing for them, and it does help the community to be able to purchase cheaper shares on other networks. We'll get to that too. All right. So they chose 1%, so they would get 10 T shares out of the 1,000 T shares. That's kind of like assigned to them, and it can't be bought. Now, what the share minter contract does is it takes those 990 available T shares and the 10 million hex and puts them into the share market. So what happens is people are able to go into the share market and they can purchase these T shares with hex only. You can only buy T shares with hex, so you can't like go in there and be like, I'm gonna trade my link for T shares. No, you have to buy hex. So it almost like doubles the amount of hex people have to buy in order to get these stakes going. So withdraw entire hex amount of shares or sold. Yeah. So once these shares are kind of bought up, when people are buying these shares, they're actually allowing that owner to like pull out that hex that you're trading it for. It's the ratio that they set it at. So whenever they put those 1,000 shares in there, it's at that ratio of kind of like the day they did it plus that 1% premium. So if you were to buy those shares the day they created the stake, it would be worse than what you could get in like 1%. Like until the share rate went up 1%, it would from that day it would be a worse deal. So it's kind of like depending on your premium, like if you make it a 50% premium, then until the share rate goes up 50% from that day, it's worse. It's worse to buy shares from that. Now, I'm sure some people early on are not going to know what they're doing, and they're going to buy a bad rate of shares instead of like they could have done better on their own instead of buying from here. But the cool thing is, like, say a 1% premium. That means after the share rate goes up 1%, any day after that, it gets better and better and better as a share price for people to buy shares of Hex by just, well, first they have to have Hex, so they have to have already bought Hex. Then they buy these shares at a better share rate than they could possibly get because it's an old share rate. You can't get this amazing share rate from days ago. Never before were we able to go back in time and get a better share rate. This contract basically allows for that, and it's good for everyone. So it's not like screwing over one party or the other. It's kind of like an agreed upon. It's beneficial for both sides. All right. So whenever people say they put 10 more million hex in to, kind of buy out these shares, this owner actually now has 10 million hex liquid, and now there's 10 million hex locked in the share market as well. So there's a total like kind of 20 million hex in this scenario. So 10 million of it gets pulled out. Now these people in the share market who bought shares, they are locked in for as long as the owner created like the time lock. So they could have done 15 years. There's no emergency unstake feature in these contracts. So once you're locked in, you are locked in. So those 10 million hex are basically perma-locked for 15 years. They will never be sold for 15 years. You can bet your bottom dollar you're not selling those shares. It's not possible. Nobody can do it. So, oh, this is so exciting because when you kind of scale this up into like, wait, why people are not going to be buying like Hex just to stake it themselves. They're going to be doing it and then putting it into these 15-year. Maybe it can be any amount the owner picks. So I'm sure there'll be some 1-year ones and 2-year and 5-year. But basically, they are going to be really locked. Like no more emergency unstaking, and then you see a big sell-off. So there's going to be less of that. So less downward volatility and more diamond hands, even like forced diamond hands. I mean, people know what they're getting into. They can read the stuff before they get in. But people are agreeing to 15 years flat. Like you're not getting out sooner. All right, so let's finish the explanation here before we get into the game theory. We didn't even get to the cool, awesome game theory yet. All right, so once the time comes to end the stake, the owner runs it, and they're incentivized to run it because then they get finally paid out by that whatever premium they had. So we're assuming they end the stake. It tells the Hex contract to end the stake. It mints the Hex, goes into the share minter. Then all of it except for the premium goes to the share market, and now all the people who had owned shares in the share market can claim it much, much, much cheaper than an emergency, not emergency, than a unstake function. An unstake function is linearly scaling. It goes, what is it, this way? Linearly scaling goes up and to the right, which is bad if you're paying that every day that you're staked. And so, but this, to claim your unsold or to claim your rewards or any unsold shares, you only pay the fee of basically a transfer of an ERC20. That's the cost. It doesn't like keep getting worse and worse. It's a constant. That's another benefit of this. Man, I have so much stuff to get into. Okay, so and anyone can end a mature stake. So say this person died, like because like imagine one guy starts a stake for everyone, and everyone buys all the shares of it, but then this guy isn't around anymore and he just doesn't end stake it. Maybe he doesn't care about the Hex. Then these people will never get their minted Hex because only they can call it. Well, after 10 days, anybody can call it, and they actually get to claim this premium for themselves, whoever's the first caller. So, I mean, I wouldn't go so dark as to cheer and hope the main staker guy dies or something so that you can claim it. But hey, it's an extra profit center, If that ever comes to fruition, if you know about that, then you get to just cash in on like a large, huge stake. So, or if they just forget, if they just forget and then 10 days comes by, you can just claim that premium. It's amazing. Okay. It says right here, the first caller. And the share rate only goes up. So like I said before, this will be a helpful visual. If you make a 1% premium, then since the share rate only ever goes up, mathematically, like it can't go down. Like a share price, like the cost to get a T share may go down, but not in Hex terms. Only in dollar terms can it go down. So this will always be going up and to the right, and so that's why all these contracts work. Because they're constants and like mathematically proven. Now, in this example, they had, that minted 990 T shares. Well, 7 months later, you would only get 892 with that 10 million Hex. So if you were able to buy shares in that 7 months later, you're actually getting a way better deal, almost like, what is that, 10% or more better, um, better share rate if you wanted to be a part of that stake, be a part of those shares. So you're actually like getting a lot more value by, and you have to pay less. You don't have the end stake fee if you join and do these share buying in the share market. Okay. All right, let's get to. Oh yeah, here it talks about the cost to end a stake. It's a linearly scaling function. So this is the base gas cost plus days staked times 2300. So I did the math on this. Let's see, I got it over here. There we go. So this actually saves you from having to pay a potential, like for a 15-year stake, it would be 5555 times 2300 plus the 5400 or 54,000. So that adds up to about like 12.8 million, which is how much gas it would cost, which is basically almost an entire Ethereum block. That's huge. And so that means that it would cost 0.015 Ethereum multiplied by whatever Gwei price it is at the time. So if it's 100 Gwei, it'd be 100x that. And so we're just rounding up to 0.015, so 15 million. And so that would mean 1.5 ETH to end a stake at today's ETH prices in 15 years. So let's assume ETH was 200K in 15 years each. You know, we'll see if Pulse doesn't put it in the ground. So if it's 200K each, that means to unstake it would cost you $300,000. Okay, that's pretty bad. I am not looking forward to that one. I'll let you know because I've already staked for 15 years before this contract came out. RIP. Anyway, but hey, that's a good opportunity for everyone new here. Let's get a little bit more into the math here. So if you did the, okay, it would only cost 0.004 ETH at the same Gwei price if you were to do the if you had bought shares in a 15-year stake, same thing. And that is $800. So you can save a heck of a lot of money by doing these Hex shares instead of buying Hex and staking yourself. That's pretty huge. I did the math. That's a 375x difference in cost. It's 375x more expensive to end a stake yourself rather than buying shares. And now this is 15 years into the future, so hopefully by then scaling is fixed. You know, we don't know what's going to happen in 15 years. Ethereum might not even exist. Maybe ETH 2.0 finally launches in 20 years. Who knows? No one. So possibly no one will ever have to pay large fees like that, because obviously if things are costing $300,000 to do something on the network, that's unusable. So there's got to be some sort of change by then, I would assume. But if there was no progress for 15 years, that's what the costs would be. All right, so that's for price wise. I've got so much info in here. All right, so what is, if you had, you know, buying Hex is great for price, okay? So what do you think is like the number one awesomest, best behavior you would want a user to have? Buying large amounts and locking it for 15 years with no ability to sell. That is like the optimal user of the system. That's why Richard, whenever he sees someone just like locking like like they just locked up like the God Whale 15 years, locked it after immediately buying. It's like, all right, that's the best possible thing they could do. Well, this is even more concrete because there's not even an emergency end stake function. Only buyer, never seller. I say that in some of my videos, but Richard finds ways. Well, this isn't even Richard's thing. This is Firebun's. I'm curious what Richard thinks about it. Has he looked over the code? He probably doesn't have time. Definitely gonna make sure. Gonna make sure that got a notification. Gonna make sure that Richard thinks it's okay before I ever do anything with the contract. But we'll see. So the awesome thing is, you're wondering, well, why would someone like stake and then let people take part of their stake at a better deal? Like, why wouldn't you just keep it all for yourself? Well, we will get into that. So the reason people do want to enter into that side where they can't even emergency unstake, like why would people do that? Let's talk about that side. Well, you're giving them a better deal than they can get by themselves. If they only have today's share price. And so if that's a worse share price than what you're offering, then you're offering something great. Sure, they lose the ability to emergency unstake, but that's because that's how the contract has to work. But you're getting that way better share price. If you plan to wait 5 years, 10 years, 15 years for your stake to end anyway, and you don't plan on paper handing it after all the mad gains, then you might as well get the better share price and get way more interest. All right. You know, people are already committed 15 years. I don't think they plan on unstaking at like year 7 or anything. So, this effectively transforms all buy pressure into 15 years of diamond hand holding. There's no emergency unstake. So, turning only buyers and like all buyers into never sellers is like, isn't that not the best thing possible? People are buying this thing and now they are locked in 15 years. That is insane. Like, you can say 15 years really fast, like, and you're like, 15 years. That is a long, long, long time. Imagine the interest and the and the appreciation in that time. You are making so much over time with that. That is a commitment, though. So that is amazing for price. All right, so let's get into. All right, we talked about how if you already have Hex, you cannot, like if it's already staked, you can't do anything with that. You can't trade or sell it already because it's immutable code, which is a good thing. It's good that people can't just go in and change how shares work while we're in the contract for years. Like, that would be terrible. But it's immutable. It can't be done. Can't be messed up. So, but they had to build contracts to build on top of it or to interact with it. Let's see. Get on here. Another benefit of these hex stakes is they can be exported to a bridge and then put on other chains like Pulse, like Arbitrum, and people can buy these shares for a penny for a transaction. And so you're getting shares like Hex Shares, Ethereum Hex Shares, on the ETH network. So making Hex on ETH valuable because people can actually buy it. They just buy the shares on another network, and that means that the people buying the ETH shares are locked like verifiably on the blockchain for whatever amount of time the owners pick. I'm not sure if they're only going to do 15 years. Maybe that's the best game theory. I didn't figure that part out yet. I do think there's room for people like owners to make 1 year stakes, 3 year, 5 year. But there's going to be a lot of 15-year ones, and that means anytime someone buys those shares, those people that is Hex that is verifiably on the blockchain, unable to be sold for years. Years. That's the best buy pressure you can get. It's not it's not traders who buy it and then they can sell it on a 2x and then the price like keeps fluctuating so much. It's going to be, you're going to see buys and then, oh, nobody sold. It's because they're locked for 15 years, sir. Oh, back up. We're going higher. It's just gonna because it's locked in. It's awesome. All right. And one cool thing I didn't mention is these you're also able to transfer shares. So if I I have 10 T shares and I want to give 2 to my friend and 1 to my daughter, I don't have a daughter, but you give it to one of your kids. You can give them as like a gift to somebody. Like, here's a T share, bro, for Christmas or something. You might not be ready for this Christmas, but by next Christmas probably it'll be out, the front end. And so you can actually like split up T shares and give them to people, and then they're locked in, until the due date. And then you just tell them, hey, when that date comes up, you just claim it. It's going to cost you like almost nothing, comparatively to a normal end stake, and they just mint all that hex. So it's actually like making the contract more versatile. Pretty awesome stuff. What else can you do with it? Thanks everybody for watching so far. Please like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. We got a new Telegram channel I swung up. It's really cool. We got some cool stuff coming up in there, giving me great ideas. It's t.me/pulse theory. And we talk about game theory in there and best strategies for Pulse and pulsex, which has come out. How awesome is that? Well, it's not out, but now we got the Pulse Exchange name. Anyway, just a little mid-video reminder. It helps the channel out. All right. Now, one of the benefits of this as well is it's opening a stake for one. It gives that, it spreads that cost basically around to like possibly hundreds or thousands of people, instead of like everyone having to start a stake and then end a stake and doing all these extra transactions that cost a lot. So opening one stake to many transaction instead of everyone needing to open their own stakes, that's a lot of cost that could be going into buying more of the product, right? Instead of paying it to the miners, there's more hex for the hexicans. So you're actually able to buy more hex because you're not spending it on these bad, terrible fees. Everyone in hex has less, external costs. Now they have more money that can just be put into hex. It's more buying pressure. That's pretty awesome. Because these fees are not like minuscule. It's not like, oh, that's like no value. It's like, that's actually pretty significant buy pressure we could be having if people didn't have to spend thousands on these fees every day. There's only buying of shares in the share market. You can't like sell your shares for anything else. Like, it can only be bought with hex. And the price is depending on the premium the owner chooses. And what that does is just push out the date until buying their shares is worthwhile. Because like, as soon as it's better than today's price, it's always going to be better than like every day after that's price as well, until all those shares are bought up, and then you can't get that amazing deal anymore. It might come to the point where like there's a big stake with like millions and millions of hex. Maybe you can get like 50% off shares someday whenever there's still like 10 million of that 150 million hex stake left, but like way after the share price has gone way up and it's still back at that 50% off. Who isn't going to take that deal? 50, I would do that. 50% off, That's me. We have a family motto. It's, if it's free, we'll take 3. That comes from our family, I believe. That was 50% off, not free. But you know what I'm saying. Now, the reason the big players might make these stakes, because these are all great for the community and people buying cheaper stakes, but the people actually creating them, what's their incentive? Like, if they're a huge whale, what's their incentive? Big players can create these huge stakes with juicy low T-share rates, after some time has passed, since T-share rate always goes up, that entices smaller users to slowly but surely buy up the shares they allowed to be bought, so they get to choose. They could be like, you know what, only 1% of my 150 million hex stake I'll give away. But maybe they'll do half, They're happy to keep that extra risk on the table, and they're able to get some of that hex back over time as price is appreciating, most likely, because these people are just using their hex that they've already bought to buy these shares that locks them in for a long time. And so that's probably very good for price. So I'm sure these huge whales are happy to get some of their big stake back earlier than, the very end. They're actually getting back some of their yield early. It's pretty nice for the big players, I'll be honest. So yeah, it entices the smaller users to buy up the shares that they're getting at an increased, like a way better T-share rate than they could ever get by themselves. And this basically turns those users into true diamond hands. Like they were like they're really grabbing it. Like they literally cannot let go of these bags. Like they're locked in. They literally have to wait the full duration before they get their payout. And so that's just great for the overall system, is there's just less sellers. And obviously if you're a huge whale in the system, your goal isn't to dump this thing into zero. Your goal is to hold it long term and build the community as large as we can get it, like global domination level. And then you're just like biggest whale forever for generations to come. That is what I think the largest whales are thinking. Super generational wealth creation going on here, boys. And let's not forget how important this is. I've said this before, but this creates blockchain verifiably unsellable coins. No emergency unstakes here. These people are truly removing supply like for a long time. We're going to have a new chart of future market supply that has like these are perma-locked. Like you will not remove, like these will not be sellable. There's no emergency unstake that can like sell some of these coins. None of that. So I just think that's very important to know. All right. So yeah, if you hold, I'm gonna get more into the whale stuff. So if you hold a lot of supply of something, wouldn't it be amazing and even ideal if you could entice others to buy and never be able to sell until their due date? So while you're able to recoup your initial hex, you can you put up, you can do whatever you want with that hex. You can even keep another stake rolling. Like if you put out a 10 million hex stake that you give like 99% of it away that people can buy, and then people buy it all up and you get all that hex back, you can make another 10 million hex stake. Now, of course, you know how the share price goes up every day. It won't produce as many T-shares to be sold for hex again, but you can keep doing that and collecting that premium over time. So you're always going to get that payout at the end, but you don't have as much risk as everybody else, but you get to like kind of encourage more heart, like diamond hand holding, while also collecting a premium on like for yourself, because like that long over 15 years, even 1% of a large stake is like huge money. But you got all those people to lock in for as long as you did, even though they aren't as big as you. That's pretty good. Usually those people will sell way too early. And you can set these at any like time duration of your choosing. If you're like, I don't believe in Hex, but I do believe in it for 5 years, then you can do a 5 year one, and then you do your premiums, and then you'll be the liquidity at like the 5 year mark, and that's kind of like your territory. And other people with those kind of like time horizons can buy that up, and then you get your initial back out, and you get a little bit of premium on the side. It's pretty good. All right. And so, most likely, either the OA or large whales will make these constant shares, and whenever people buy in with Hex, which they had to buy, then they're locked in permanently until the end of the stake. Then they can just keep making more stakes with those shares. Shares will keep going lower because it's just the Hex that, the Hex stays the same, but the shares will, you'll get less of those over time as they keep making them each day. And so they're encouraging pretty much every user after this comes out is going to be like, man, I could buy these way cheaper shares and gain interest, like more interest than if I just do this myself, and I don't have the end stake cost to like wrecks my profits. because I can buy it on this other chain that gives me access to these shares on this other on the Ethereum chain. And so you can buy Hex on ETH shares for a penny on PulseChain and then pay like $20 to end stake. And you're getting a better rate than you could have ever got before, because now you can go back in time technically and get an insanely good T-share rate. This is going to change the game. I think it's like a perfected version of the Hex system. I'm curious to hear what Richard thinks about all this. Maybe. I mean, I've heard him say that he does think it's a good idea. So I wonder if he's gone in super depth understanding about it, like the implications. So sometimes he says he learns stuff from us Hexicans. So that'd be cool if I ever taught him something one day. He's taught me so much. I'm so proud to have learned from him. He's awesome. Just a wealth of information, that guy. Read his book, Scivive, t.me/Scivive, SCIVIVE. Awesome book. All right. Oh, also, it's a slightly improved security model, because now you can, if you feel like your seed has been compromised, you can transfer your shares to another wallet. So it's good for long-term holding. Now with that part, Firebun was talking about it's good to have a smart wallet because you're able to change the contract owner. So you might only get that extra security if you have a smart wallet. You might not be able to transfer your shares to like another person, because I did say that you can't sell them. So either way, there is a way to have more security by either having a smart wallet, but it's also a mixture of being able to transfer the shares from the contract, because you can transfer the contract ownership. I think that's the way. So yeah, smart wallet plus this long-term security. Like if you feel like, oh, my computer got stolen or my phone got stolen, and you're like, oh no, my seed words are on there, you better do something quick. If you're stuck in the old system, like on here, where you just interacted with the Hex contract, there's nothing you can do. If they get access to your wallet with the private key, they have all the control you do. But with this one, you're able to move who owns this contract to a new user, and that's you, and then this person doesn't have control of this anymore if they were to eventually get to it. So that's pretty reassuring. Now, buying these shares, you really can't be paper hands after you commit to this. Like, you don't have a choice. So your hands are immediately forged into diamond vice hard grips, and there's nothing in the world that can make you sell too early. So it might be the best thing for some people. It might be the worst thing for some people. If they needed the money and they put it in this thing, they probably shouldn't have been investing in something so speculative in the first place. If they really needed the money like the next day or something, you shouldn't be buying crypto day to day. But it's like a serious commitment. No emergency unstake is like a different feeling than I can emergency unstake this and pull out this amount of money. Some people think like that. They're like, oh, well, I can pull it out and I'll get some back. We've seen all those people who are like, should have sold my Hex, man. So how to sell my Hex? I love that video. And that one guy who sold like 150 million Hex, and he was like, but my USD profits were 2.5x. So this whole thing's a scam because I'm not really locked in. It was like, you sold at like 0.00001 cent, dude. What are you doing? You could have been a millionaire, billionaire by now. Dumb. Anyway, this saves you from selling too early and then being one of those guys. So sorry for my interpretations there. I'm working on it. So let's make sure this is close enough. I'm probably shouting in your ears. All right, let's move this. What's that? Okay. All right. So once the stake comes due, the owner has 10 days to end the stake on time. You might say, well, why 10 days? Gerardo asked this on the stream. There's 14 days after a stake is due that you can claim and unstake it for no penalty. Because if you wait those 14 days and then the day rolls over, you lose 1% of that stack to everybody else who is staking. And so those last 4 days are so people, like if the contract owner doesn't want to end the stake, anybody else can call it and claim that premium for themselves and not incur any penalty for 4 days. So that's a good amount of time, I think. So anyone can claim their share, and you can claim that share that you say you bought those shares and the stake gets ended because you did like a 1 year one. You joined and it was 1 year, and 2 years later you're like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot to claim my hex. Oh my gosh. So normally you'd be screwed, and you would get way less. You lose like, I don't know, because every week you lose 1%. So what is that? 52 weeks, you lose like half your stack. It takes like 2 years to lose all of your whole stake. So if you're a year late, you would normally lose 52% of your hex payout if it was your own personal stake. Well, this you are always able to go in and claim your shares because the stake's already been ended and it's just holding your basically hex in the contract for you, and you just go, yep, I got the private key and that's mine. There's no penalties in the share pool for people who claim like a year late or 10 years late, a month late. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I wouldn't recommend, being neglectful and forgetting when your stakes end. That's silly, but it protects people from forgetting. And whenever you make these long stakes, 15 years, like I'm not even going to remember this moment in 15 years, or the day that I staked, I'm not going to remember, most likely. So, not the actual day, but it's hard to plan 15 years in advance, and life gets busy, you lose stuff. So this protects people from missing out and losing lots and lots of their hex. So that's pretty cool. And I said you can split up shares and send them to people, possibly as gifts and such. And you don't have to worry about people selling too early and hurting the price because they're locked up until the due date. Some of this stuff I already went over. Oh yeah, and so like the way the premium works, it's not like, oh, they have a 50% premium, that's going to be a worse stake than a 1% premium. It depends on the time frame. So like a 1% premium means that sooner than a 50% premium on the same day, will that 1% one become a better choice, a better ratio than doing it yourself. It'll become a better deal sooner than that 50% one. But if that 50% one was from a long time ago, it's all about the hex to share ratio that the thing has. It doesn't matter what the premium number is, so don't get screwed over thinking that means it's a worse deal if it's 50%. Just check how many shares am I getting per hex. Whichever one is the most is the best deal. That's all you need to know. It also depends on how long you want it to be staked out. Like if you want a 15-year one, well, a 1-year one with like a better rate doesn't give you 15 years. So, want to clear that up for people? I talked about how if you had to end your stake yourself, it would be 300K in 15 years potentially, instead of $800. That's pretty crazy. So I'm gonna give you my overall, kind of thoughts on this. We're getting towards the end of the video here. Thanks for sticking around, everybody. Hopefully you're enjoying the quality, and definitely hit me up with ideas for other videos. I've gotten ideas from viewers before, and they're awesome. So overall, this is a huge benefit to the purchasability of Hex. And it's also going to create a huge supply sink of coins that are verifiably not coming back into circulation until their due date. It's the definition of only buyer, never seller once this comes out with the front end. It's going to be crazy. Like, this will almost immediately affect price. Almost immediately. once people start doing this. So it's basically a more perfected version of Hex, I think. I think it's an enhancement overall. It just adds a lot more features to it without breaking the overall consensus and structure of Hex itself and how it works. It was able to build on top. It's immutable, but it's able to be like interacted with, which is pretty cool. So they're gonna probably come out with a perfected version of the chart of future market supply that Richard likes to brag about, where you can kind of tell when the end stakes are coming, and that's kind of when you like build around that. Well, it always was kind of weird to me that he called that the chart of future market supply, because people can end stake early, and then that didn't really help you that much. But now, whenever we have these like these are locked in, like you are not selling till this day. It's not even like a week before they can do it. It's like you have to wait 1 year. This will never be sold. So that'll probably be like a color on the bar, and like this amount of Hex coming out this day. It is only coming out this day, and like maybe some of this, like a larger amount, will be possibly emergency end stakeable. I think over time it's going to be more of the never ever can be unstaked until the day. Over time, hopefully that grows. It's going to have to grow. It starts at 0%, so it's only going to go up. That's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to that. See how that depends on the adoption of this. I think people who take advantage of this are going to really get themselves nice deals, and people who don't understand it are going to miss out. So if you're watching this video, hopefully you don't miss out now that you know. So I think this like this disrupts the idea that there won't be stakers for Hex on Ethereum. Like people are like, oh, who would stake on Hex? Who would stake on Ethereum? They're Hex. Why not go to PulseChain and just use pHex? Which totally, I kind of agreed with until I read this and understood it. Since they're able to export these shares to be bought on other chains, you can buy them on PulseChain for like a penny to get the shares. Like, it didn't cost a penny to buy the shares, but the transaction cost to do it, which is the reason people don't like ETH, is the transaction fees, is like less than a penny, and you can do it on other chains too. They can fill up another blockchain instead of a PulseChain with our buying stakes shares transactions. And so people are actually getting Ethereum Hex value on other chains. That's never been done before. It wasn't possible until now. So I think there is value in eHex for that reason. So I think the people planning to sell their eHex for pHex might be pretty sad when they see that eHex is doing quite fine and they sold something that was doing fine. Maybe they'll go to parity. Maybe the Pulse Hex never gets to ETH parity and you made a big mistake, I think it's smart to hold both, especially since like there's a lot more economic mass in Hex currently, and Ethereum is more tried and true than a new fork of it will be. So who knows? You gotta hedge your bets somewhat. At least hedge it with like a really good crypto, like hold eHex, and then the slightly riskier one might be pHex, just more expensive on Ethereum. So that's pretty much all I got for now for wrapped Hex. Maybe watch it a few times to fully get all the points, and read the Medium article and watch that video that Firebun talks about in the Staker app Sunday show. If you really want to wrap your head around it, there's even more game theory stuff in there as well. Like there are some, I guess you could say, negative ones. Like since people aren't able to emergency unstake as much, then there's less penalties being paid out to stakers. Like that's something I thought of, but I think overall it's better if those people can't sell, then they didn't move the price down. So yeah, you don't have a little bit more coins, like your little percentage. You didn't get like 0.001 more coins from that guy selling, but he didn't push the price down at all. So honestly, I think it's better that they just don't sell than getting a little bit of reward because they dumped it, dumped early and lost some of their stuff. Let's see. Follow me on Twitter at K4K Crypto. Would much appreciate that. I have more subscribers on YouTube than followers on Twitter. I didn't think that would happen. I have a new game theory Telegram group. It's got almost 50 people in there. Some really smart guys showed up, and they're talking about new stuff I haven't ever thought of, so I got new stuff to research. Did I say the name of it? It's t.me/pulse theory. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out. I really appreciate all you guys, giving me feedback and stuff. I'm trying to improve the stream a bit. And hit the bell if you want to see videos as soon as I post it, because sometimes I post and I just let it sit a little bit before I tell everyone about it. So you might get a little inside peek. But thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll probably have a new poll out soon about what I should make my next videos on. It might be about how to connect to the testnet, because there's going to be a testnet v3. Secret notes are right at the end. You thought the video was over, but it's not. So there's a testnet v3 confirmed by Richard, because they need to test the wallet balances. They didn't do that with this v2 launch, which made me immediately think, yeah, there's got to be a v3, because you can't just start mainnet, and we never tried launching with balances. There's going to be a v3. I don't think it necessarily speeds or elongates the time before Pulse mainnet launches, because they can start v3 tomorrow, and they're just testing things. It's still just testing. What else was there? There's the v3. Oh yeah, pulsex. But I don't get banned for saying that. Pulse Exchange, the AMM, which is Pulse Swap, for those who don't know. PulseX is the name. There is a Telegram for it. I think it's pulsex.com. Check that out. Richard tweeted about it. But that is the name of it, and we're also going to be able to test that on testnet v3. Like, we're going to know all the parameters of that. And so I'm really looking forward to that, and so I got to set up my own thing to be able to test it on testnet, so I can look at the numbers and see what percentages and calculations they decided to go with, all the parameters. And so I want to be able to show you guys that, and if I'm going to be doing it myself, I might as well make a video of how I got connected and how I'm able to get where I need to go to check all this stuff out. So that's something to look forward to. I'll have a poll on Twitter in the coming days or so. And feel free to follow me on my socials. Thanks, guys. Peace out.